Here's the thing for me about Notre Dame and the game and the recap for them. Joe, your longest run is 9 yards. Like, I know that's like doesn't sound like a big deal. It is a big deal when it came on the first drive. Joe, you averaged 2 yards a carry. That's not Notre Dame football. We talked about them going into the game having to play their style of football. They did on that first drive, and it damn near broke Riley Leonard. I mean, dude's puking on the sidelines, but he gave everything he had. I for what it's worth, I think you tried to be who you were offensively, and you did some good things in moments. But, man, not ultimately when this game is round up in the bow and you going 5 for 12 on third down. Joe, of the 12 third downs, you tried to run the ball 7 of them. 7. By the way, guess how many you didn't convert?
Okay. Well, we're all 7 of those that they didn't convert.
No, they had 3 of them on the first drive with Riley Leonard, but they didn't get – how about this? After the first drive with Riley Leonard, they did not get a rushing first down. They got him on 4th downs.
Okay. I agree with you on the running aspect of this. I think it's a little bit more complicated to unpack, and this goes in line with what I'm about to bring up for what stood out the most to me with Notre Dame and what cost them the game. I agree with you, though, not being able to run the ball to the extent of creating a splash play in the running game, that definitely hurt them. They needed on that second or third drive to generate some sort of actually, I think one of the Jadarian Price carries, maybe I'm misremembering, got called back for a hold or something along those lines, like a false start or something.
Yes, it was a 7-yard run, that second drive when they got that holding call, right.
So that inability to at least get some sort of a splash play, like even in Penn State and Georgia, where they were bottled up running the football, they at least had a long run, a 20-something yard run somewhere in the mix, like just a 15, 10-plus yard run that was able to just help keep them afloat and know that they were going to win along the line of scrimmage to break these guys free. This is where I have a feeling that there's a shot that you and I start yelling at each other again.
Here we go.
I really believe that this game, if you break it down to 5 specific plays, this game was a lot closer than people realize. And the final score,
I can't get there.
Okay. The final score indicates that Notre Dame was able to get back into this. There's a lot of reasons why they were able to do so. Yes, the conservatism by Chip Kelly does play into it. The lack of execution on very specific instances completely broke the game open for Ohio State and swung in their direction. The second and third offensive drives that they had completely took Notre Dame out of the game to the point where they were trailing and they had to play catch up. They had the second drive, they had a false start and then a hold that completely derailed them and put them in a third and very long situation that they were not going to convert. They're not the type of offense that's going to win in those situations. And then on the third drive, they were starting to get a little bit of momentum going, and then Mitchell Evans, the ball gets launched into him on a snap because that was mistimed. That lack of execution showed up, and that completely hurt them. The thing that I think ultimately was just very frustrating from the Notre Dame fans end, and I'm not trying to make this seem that like Notre Dame was in it. They were in it the entire game. It's just these couple of things. I'm just trying to point out that if it wasn't for those 2 drives sputtering as poorly as they did, there was a legitimate shot that Notre Dame could have played this game a little bit closer. I know that's a huge if. I'm not trying to make excuses. But the fact that when you're going up against a team as explosive as Ohio State was, they needed to be able to continue to run down the clock and have these long drives and control the time of possession. Yes, they couldn't play from behind. They almost came back, but the minute they were placed in this position where it was multiple scores to play catch up, they were done. As excited as Notre Dame fans got, they weren't going to be able to get back into it. This thing needed to have been won in the second quarter, and they failed. They got their asses kicked in the second quarter. The second quarter lost them the game. And then there was one other last point of missed execution that I looked back at. On the drive where they attempted the field goal attempt, it was 3rd and 9.
Oh, God.
He forced the ball to Jaden Greathouse.
They should have run the ball.
I had the all-22. No, they shouldn't have.
Well, on 3rd and 9, they should have run the ball to try to get somewhere more conservative.
Right, to get to 4th and 5. But correct. On this play, Jaden Greathouse completely blanketed, not open. Riley Leonard forces the ball. And I'm just looking at what should have been the designed intention. Jeremiah Love is running a flare route and he's opening up, and everybody's just locked in on him flowing to Greathouse before the ball even comes out of his hand. I don't know if Jeremiah Love scores in that situation, but like that one was just the singular player where it was like, holy shit, this game would have been so different if Riley Leonard had saw that and was paying attention. It means nothing. I'm not making it an excuse, but I stand by my point here that this game was lost for Notre Dame in the second quarter.
All right. I'm not trying to argue with you, but then that means that Notre Dame and Indiana was a really close game then.
I don't think that is the same thing.
They came back. They're down 7. They get an onside kick. I mean,
yeah,
I don't.
But that circumstance of coming back was like super duper completely different. They like Notre Dame had their backups in the game. Notre Dame put backups into the game. Ohio State didn't do that.
I don't. You didn't have your backups in the final drive. When you're down 7, no, you didn't. Christian Gray was the one that had the touchdown put on him. Literally the drive before. Christian Gray covered Jeremiah Smith the whole time.
Wait, no. I'm talking about the Indiana game that you mentioned. Wait, are you talking about I think you're talking about Notre Dame, Indiana. You're talking about Ohio State, Indiana. What are you talking about?
No, I'm talking about Notre Dame, Indiana.
Notre Dame was up, and it was the second half of the fourth quarter that they orchestrated. I don't think that we need to revisit that. Revisiting that is a very bad idea. We're going to go down a stupid rabbit hole.
There was at no point – I knew that the game was getting interesting. At no point did I feel like that they were going to win.
No, I don't disagree with that. As soon as that second quarter went the way that it did, I knew that the game was over.
Right. I think Ohio State got way too conservative. But here's the problem that I had going back to the running game. It's not like of the 60 plays that you had, Joe, 30 of them, I mean, it's 29, I'm just rounding up, just for clarification. You still ran the ball 30 times. You didn't get Jeremiah Love or Price any touches. I know that you're down, but you were down, you're down 21-7. I get it. I understand it. But you got out of who you were. Joe, they did not get touches. Arguably one of the best backs, regardless if you're handing the ball off to him or throwing him the football, is not getting touches.
Well, but my only counter to that, though, is that they led all of their successful scoring drives. Most of their successful scoring drives, except for the first one, were by the fact that they were throwing the ball.
They should have not gotten Jeremiah Love the ball more.
I'm not saying that. Okay. I think that they definitely should have. But the problem was that they needed to do it in the second and third in the second quarter. That was when it needed to have happened, not in the fourth quarter.
What I said, you're down 21-7, and you completely abandoned it.
Yeah, on that third drive, yeah.
They got desperate, and quite frankly, you went into it. You went into a gunfight with a knife. If this game ever got in the air, which it did, and Riley Leonard had to beat you with his arm, even though he had some amazing throws in moments. He also had some really bad ones. So, look, you're beat up. I'm not going to get in that argument with Notre Dame fans. The God's honest truth was you gave up too many explosive plays on the ground, and you did not have an answer for when they threw the football. Joe, there was no answer for that Notre Dame had them throwing the football. None. Zero. I mean, I don't want to say bully because I don't want to get canceled by Notre Dame fans.
Because they didn't really get bullied. They just got out.
You had 2 DBs that got run over. I don't know if you really believe that they had if hypothetically speaking, if they don't take the gas off their foot off the gas, that shit could have been really bad. It could have gotten really – they did not have an answer. I guess that's not how I'm thinking of bullied. The way that I'm thinking of bullied is that when there's one-on-one guys squared up and you get run over, that's what I call bullied.
Okay. I'm not going to get into the semantics of that with you.
Okay.
The other thing, though, that I just want to bring up here before we move on to the next segment. This is just reiterating something that we discussed earlier. The inability to generate pressures and to get after Will Howard absolutely, completely cooked them.
Oh, God.
I don't know what Al Golden was doing. I don't think he called a straight up zero of a game plan. I think that they had success in certain areas. But there was one play where I was on the treadmill when I was watching the tape, and I think the people around me were looking at me like, what the hell is this guy doing? I like threw my arms up in the air and was like, what the fuck, basically. I didn't say that out loud, but that was my reaction. they had a 3-man. They sent 3 men, a 3-man pressure. They dropped Tuihalamaka into a zone drop instead of sending more guys after Will Howard, and it vacated the entire open left side of the field, and he scrambled. I think this was on a key third down, and he had a super long rush because the entire left side of the field was wide open. That was something that couldn't have happened. They needed to play really good contain. They needed to continue to send pressure. The minute that they were on their heels, they should have just went all out. They should have continued to just send 6 guys. And if you get beat by sending that much, I would have been fine with that. But to sit on their heels and try to catch them was stupid. That to me, I thought was really dumb.
Speaking of Notre Dame, there is some news on them that is being reported now by.
Is it Al Golden?
It is the Al Golden. The current expectation is, per Pete Nakos, the current expectation is that Golden will become the next defensive coordinator at Cincinnati in the NFL, Cincinnati Bengals.
So that is
confirmed. Pete Nakos. The Cincinnati Bengals are bringing Notre Dame DC Al Golden in for an interview. The current expectation for Golden, per Pete